So I'm Megan Vincent-Fox. I am the academic program manager at Esther B. Clark School. We'll tell you guys a little bit about the school in a little bit. I've been in education for a really long time. I'm working on studying for my BCBA exam, and I've been working with students with various behaviors for the last 8 years in a lot of settings: charter school, public school, private school, and now here at EBC, which is a non-public school.
Cool. Yeah, they gave me a mic. and I'm Brandon Carlton. I am a student support counselor at Esther B. Clark School in the South Bay. We just opened our South Bay campus this year. It's a fun, exciting endeavor. I've been an at-risk youth counselor since 1999. I think so. I think that was it. And I've been working with kids ever since in a variety of fashions. But for the past 8 years, I've worked here at Palo Alto at EBC being a behaviorist. Very familiar with our program, and then once again needed a student support counselor / we used to call us crisis counselors, but we're not that anymore. But have a lot of experience with the challenging behavior end of things, so I'm going to be helping out tonight, and yeah, just wanted to give you guys some cool information.
Okay, so show of hands, who has heard about the Children's Health Council or have come to trainings with us before? Awesome. For those of you guys who don't know, this is a community-based nonprofit organization, and there's several different parts of our organization that we're going to go through, including Esther B. Clark School, where we both work. So our kind of mission is we want teens, kids, and young adults to develop these things. We want them to stop hurting and feel better. We work with students with learning challenges, anxiety and depression, emotional challenges, behavioral challenges. We really want to get to the root cause of that so these students are able to learn and be part of their community. Our vision, our mission, our quest. Our vision is we believe in the promise and potential of every child, teen, and young adult. Our mission is to remove those barriers to learning, helping children and teens become resilient and happy and successful at home, school, and the community. And we strive to remove social, emotional, and learning barriers for kids and families, regardless of language, location, or ability to pay. So we have a lot of services to reach all aspects of the community. So this is kind of our integrated elements of effective learning. In order to get to that goal, we work on the academic skills, the mental health and wellness, physical development, and knowing how to learn. So teaching students the skills that they need to actually access that learning. And as I said before, those are the things that we work with here at CHC. And these are our 4 different divisions. So CHC, we have our clinical services, so that's our evaluations, our therapy, our consultations, our clinics. We have our community connections, so getting out into the community through classes and workshops and classes like this with teachers. We have those for parents. Sandhill School is our independent day school for students with learning disabilities, and they really focus on supporting those students with some pretty intensive curriculum to support those differences. And then at Esther B. Clark School, we're supporting kids with emotional challenges and behavioral challenges, and we're working on changing those challenging behaviors so these students can go back to their home schools and be successful. That's really our goal. Mm-hmm. Do you want to say anything else about EBC?
It's a great place. I love working there. And that is our fundamental goal is to give them the coping skills. If you looked at the models earlier, stop hurting, give them all those skills and therapeutic services so we can really reintegrate them back into the mainstream setting with those coping skills and those coping mechanisms and understandings of their own behaviors and the behaviors of people around them so they can navigate that environment and achieve academic success and emotional success as well.
And we serve 40 different districts. As far north as Marin, we're trying to reach as far south as Santa Cruz. We just opened our South Bay campus, so really trying to spread that work that we do here. And here is a nice little plug for EdRev Expo. Raise your hand if you've heard about EdRev Expo. Raise your hand if you've participated in the past. Okay, so EdRev Expo is going to be a free event to the public where we have a whole bunch of really neat stuff for our people in the community, for students with learning and attentional challenges, often accompanied by anxiety and depression. So it is a one-day event at AT&T Field. We have the whole field space. Parents can bring their children. There is consultations with therapists. There are workshops, a lot more information. is available at edrev.com if you're interested in volunteering for the event. We're also looking for volunteers. So please, please, please check this out. It's going to be really exciting this year. This is the first year that we've been able to bring it completely free to the public. So that's really exciting, really expanding that access.
Megan's already working on me. I'll probably be there volunteering.
Okay, so here's our agenda for tonight. We're going to understand the purpose of problem behavior. We're going to go through some myth busting of our go-to responses for problem behaviors, creating an environment to promote positive behaviors in the classroom, how to increase positive behaviors in the classroom, and proactive and reactive strategies to reduce problem behaviors. Okay, so you're due now if you have a paper and pen. Think of a student who exhibits challenging behaviors in your classroom. I want you to write down their behavior, for confidentiality reasons, not their name, on a paper and fold it up. And I want you guys to keep it with you during this presentation because this is a student that we will come back to and a behavior that we will come back to at the end. Okay, so I want you guys to ask yourself, think of the student, think of the behavior. Why does this student engage in this problem behavior? Why is this student doing this in my classroom? Why is this student ripping up things that I've spent really a long time to make my classroom beautiful? So think about those things, and we're gonna go into a lot of that stuff. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise a hand and share out. We want this to be as targeted to each of your individual needs as possible.
Cool. That brings us into the functions of behavior. I'm really kind of interested. I want to know what you guys wrote down, but I probably got to save it for later. I like hearing the stories. Got tons. I know we could all probably sit here and tell stories all night long. So talking about the functions of behavior, there's 5 functions of behavior that typically cause behaviors. The attention-seeking function, the escape function, the tangible access function, sensory stimulation function, and pain. I always have trouble pronouncing this one. Attenuation function. See, I made it through. Thank you. I heard somebody else help me too. Appreciate it. I do have this, I have dyslexia sometimes, so I get everything all mixed up. But here I am. I promised you guys that the slides we're going to go through, most of the experience that I've had here working at EBC, the 3 functions that are going to be the primary functions, these are the most likely ones you're going to see. These ones are kind of there, but they're really rare. Attention-seeking function, escape function, and tangible function are like the most sought after, the most we see those functions that cause behaviors 90% of the time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on those 3 functions the most in the next couple slides. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw it out there. Let's start with attention. Your student engages in problem behavior to gain someone's attention. So a couple things to ask. Does the problem behavior only occur when others are present? Does the student check if someone is watching? Does the problem behavior occur when attention or someone else is there? It's always one of these things. I had a student today running down around the playground, and the closer we got, so it's like, oh, this is an attention thing. We're having this issue because there's a lot of attention seeking. So I'll tell you what, let's just back off and let's just see what happens for a while. And then sooner or later, the student, played on the playground and did their thing. And then they got kind of bored and walked up to me and was like, hey, can you help me? I'm upset about this. Can you help me work it out? Yeah, sure. Let's do that. So keep in mind those attention seeking things. This could also be loud noises in the classroom. Students are, excessive call-outs because you'll address those functions and then attend to those functions. That's kind of like the maladaptive coping strategy to learn to kind of get ahead and see what's going on in the classroom. Anybody experienced this so far while we're talking about it? See, I knew we'd have it out there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So attention is a big one.
Going along with attention, especially in a classroom setting, peer attention. Peer attention can really, really, really be reinforcing to these students' behaviors. So if a student is constantly looking, maybe saying inappropriate comments in class, calling out in class because their peers are laughing and encouraging them, that's super reinforcing for them. And that is probably with this function one of the most challenging things you face as a teacher because it's hard to control the peer's reaction to a student. So we're going to get into some strategies for that later, but I wanted to make sure that we definitely address that because raise your hand if that's something you experience, that those peers, those pesky peers, if only I can get them one-to-one. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Brandon, they keep feeding off each other and I don't know what to do. Okay, don't worry, I'm here to help. We'll figure it out. Escape or avoiding. These are this function is this one's near and dear to my heart. You see this a lot with students that have some of those learning disabilities that are scared of the work. You see some of those other things where they avoid school altogether. So that's why a couple of the bullet points. Does a student engage in the problem behavior when, after an instruction or a demand that they don't want to follow, is he or she attempting to avoid a specific task or subject? Mine was math. I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, hated math. I was really terrible at it. It scared me, and so you might see more problem behaviors, at certain periods of the day. And you can always kind of isolate it around, oh, we seem to have these problems around writing or around math. And we'll get into some of those strategies on how to reduce some of those problem behaviors and reduce that anxiety that's caused through the avoidance function. And school refusal, or if there's sometimes they just refuse to come to school at all. And that could just be that anticipatory anxiety building. At some point today I'm gonna have to deal with math, it's getting really bad, or language arts, or even if there's a social stigma there's a social stimulus, they don't have very good social skills, and so it's like, I like being a student in class with my teachers, I like being hanging out, but the peers part where I have to go do things at lunch and be social, maybe I don't want to do that. And so the avoidance function and escape function, we have to really be really try to get in there and try to isolate where that's coming from sometimes. Sometimes as caregivers, we take it for granted, right? Well, they avoid going to lunch. I can't get them out of my classroom. You never know, that might be the stimulus. We got to figure out what it is they're trying to avoid, and it usually clears up.
To build off of that, the topography of these behaviors can look different from student to student. So escaping or avoiding something could be a student being really withdrawn when participating in a math assignment. They're not participating, they're not doing their work on their paper. Or it could be a student really acting out, where you're actually able to observe that behavior, where they're ripping up the paper, they're throwing things, they're leaving the classroom. So the topography of behavior can look really different for all of these functions. And I just want to
that's an excellent point. You ever had a student pick a fight with you and you don't know why? Maybe they may be trying to avoid whatever stimulus is put in front of them. That's a good point, Megan. It's true. Access to tangibles. How hard is it to get that iPhone away from them sometimes, huh? You ever had them doing that all the time? That's one of the biggest ones we have now. Engaging the problem behaviors in order to gain access to that tangible. Does the behavior occur when you ask your child to transition from free activities or an incentive? Does a child engage in a problem behavior when you say no or deny the access to whatever request that is? Do you see a problem behavior when you remove those personal items? Please keep things clear off your desk, and please, put that in your backpack or your locker. One of the things we do at EBC, because we notice that to eliminate a distraction, to eliminate a stressor, one of the biggest challenges I have in the morning to help the students and the teachers out is we do ask that we confiscate the cell phones. Number one, they become like this big access thing, and then they text each other in class and bad things happen. But also, that is that tangible. They really want that. And so we will use that for incentive times, and we'll get into some positive incentive plans later. But this can also be other things too, like they want access to whatever, like if, we had a student that came to, sometimes they don't even realize it, had a student came to school the other day, really upset, wasn't refusing to engage in any classes, and I just kind of said, hey, have you had breakfast today? Well, no. How about we get some breakfast and we move on? And that solved the whole day. The whole day was fine. So there's some other kind of Maslow type things going on there, but still that access to whatever it is, sometimes they don't even know what they want to get a hold of, and they don't even know what's going to make them feel comfortable until you kind of start playing with some of these options. Megan, have any insight to this one as well?
Definitely this is challenging when transitioning from a preferred to a non-preferred activity. And you'll see this a lot. Students transitioning from recess, you see that being a problem. Students transitioning from computer time or a preferred elective activity back to the classroom. That's really challenging for a lot of students. Transitions are tough. Transitions, raise your hand if you think transitions are one of the most challenging things you deal with in a school. So we're going to talk later about ways to really structure those transitions and provide students with the supports they need, because that is an identified challenge for a lot of these kiddos. And it's hard. Like, I don't want to put away my cell phone. I'm playing this really fun game. I'm almost to the next level, and the teacher's telling me to put it away. No, I'm going to put up a fit and delay as much as I can, so I could still have access to that.
And it could be kind of, what I like too is it also could be kind of covert. We have Chromebooks and computers and stuff, and it's like, one of the problems that I get a lot with parents emailing us from the home environment is they say they need their computer to do, we took away their electronics time because they did something they weren't supposed to, but then they need their computer to do their homework. Well, no, that's why we sent the worksheet home. So again, it manifests itself in a couple different ways, and they're just trying to do whatever they can to gain access to that tangible that they want to play with. It's more preferred.
And you see a lot of that coming up with excuses with dysfunction of behavior. Coming up with, I need this because this, or I need this because it's a coping strategy, it calms me down, like a music break, I need my phone. Definitely a big challenge. Okay, so we have kind of the functions of behavior, and we have the multiple topographies that you guys wrote down, whether it be physical aggression, calling out, eloping. So why does the student continue to engage in this problem behavior? And this is where we're kind of going to go into things that can maintain the challenging behavior based on those functions. And also things that we sometimes do intuitively to stop a behavior immediately that is reinforcing to the behavior. So we're going to do some myth busting in these next few slides. Okay. So problem behavior is often continued when we unknowingly reinforce this behavior. So we might not even know we're doing it. It's not intentional. We just want to provide students with what they need to feel okay, right? So responding physically, verbally, or making eye contact following a problem behavior to gain attention. So let's say Johnny's sitting in the back of the classroom and he's talking and he's shouting out and he's doing this and that, and you go over to him and provide him with that proximity when you are working with another student. That might be unknowingly reinforcing that attention-seeking behavior for Johnny. He wanted you close to him. He didn't want you working with Jill in the front of the classroom. He wants you by him. So really seeking to understand what you could be doing following a behavior, your response to that behavior, that might actually be reinforcing based on that function. Saying no, but eventually giving in. This is showing the student or the child that they're going to eventually get what they want, especially with that access to tangible, because sometimes it can be a struggle. And you're going to have to wait them out, and you have to follow through with what you said that you're going to do. Eventually giving in to that reinforces the behavior. Continuing to debate and engaging in a power struggle. You do not want to get into a power struggle with your kids. When you talk about instructional control in the classroom or in a session, it's really important to maintain that. You can provide students with options while not negotiating or bribing students. I think bribing is something that we see a lot in schools. If you come with me, I'll make sure that you get a candy or an extra star or a sticker on your sticker chart just for completing something that they definitely are able to do, and they've mastered that skill, and they just are not exhibiting it at the time. But it's easier for you, especially in the school environment where you have so much going on in the day, and you're like, if you would just come with me, I'm running late to this class to do X, Y, and Z. I have all of these other things to do. It seems easy at the time. And I think that's why some of us reinforce problem behaviors, because in the moment, it's easy, right? To just give in, the behavior stops for that time. But the likelihood that that student's going to continue to engage in that behavior because they have a history of getting what they want definitely increases every time you're reinforcing it. Also with that, the consistency among team members. You guys work probably collaboratively with a lot of people in your school. And that consistency of not giving in among team members, because some person on your team might be reinforcing the behavior that you're trying so hard
I see some nods back there.
And it's really about having those conversations as a team and really supporting your teammates and understanding all of this. And I think that's hopefully what you guys will be able to bring from this, is thinking about a specific student and behavior and people that you work with, and being able to bring back some things to the team so you guys can have a really powerful discussion about how to best support the student long term, not just what works today. Okay, well, hopefully it works tomorrow and the next day, something long-term solutions.
Here's some cool thoughts that I had, like thinking about the slide and listening to it, is like, you know, I promise you that we've all at some point done every one of these things on this list, and that's okay. Like, we're gonna figure it out, including myself, you know. And the crazy part is they also can feed into each other too. Like, I was thinking about a scenario that when Megan was talking about, like, you ever had a student that's like, well, I don't want to talk to you, I want to talk to somebody else. And it's like, okay, well, how'd that somebody else reinforce that behavior then? So then, like, you know, my job typically as a behavior is supposed to track down, okay, how's this behavior being reinforced? How can I work with my team to say, look, you know, I really need your help on this. Like, I appreciate you trying to build a relationship with this student. We all care about the student, but let's work together to make sure we're building that positive relationship and not reinforcing a behavior we're trying to extinguish. That's where it gets really difficult, it gets really tricky sometimes. So it happens.
Yeah, and something that you do see a lot in classrooms, and something that we see with a lot of students coming to EBC, is changing expectations to avoid a problem behavior. A student got upset every time that they had to do math, so the teacher decided to give them a book instead because that was a preferred activity. It's academic still, and they just read the whole math period. And it's crazy how many times you'll see that, especially I'm thinking of a specific student in a large classroom where there's only one teacher and it's an inclusion model, and the co-teacher, the special education teacher, maybe wasn't there that day or is out a lot because her schedule and caseload is crazy. There's a lot of other factors in schools that, like, we're not saying that any of these things is wrong, just kind of saying that this is what's going to reinforce a problem behavior. And there are a lot of factors, but just trying to make sure that you're not watering down student expectations just to eliminate a problem behavior, because that's not fair for the student. We want to give them the best access to education that we can, so they can really succeed in all areas. Okay, so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty strategies to reduce problem behavior. Does anyone have any questions thus far? Need us to slow down? More examples? Okay. Advocate for your needs. Okay. Be proactive. So you can come up with great reactive supports to problem behavior, but the real work and the real place that you're going to see success is in being proactive and just planning for things to happen. So we're going to go into some proactive strategies. We're going to start with environmental controls. So I want you to think about the space that you are working with students, whether that be in a classroom, whether that be in a one-to-one setting, small group, and think about these different things. And these kind of little tweaks to just the environment and how you've structured your own space can really support students. And this is not an all-inclusive list. There are a lot more things, but these are kind of the base things that we use a lot in classrooms, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have used these. So planning and organization. Yep.
Oh, are you going to go through each one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and provide examples. There's some that we'll go into a little more in depth, like visual schedules, and we'll talk a lot about intentional language in another slide. But I'll go through these right now. Planning and organization, so just making sure that you yourself are organized when you are disorganized and you have not planned for the day. It's hard to just wing it as a teacher, especially when you're dealing with students with challenging behaviors. You never know what's going to happen. So making sure that you guys have a plan, that you guys are organized, your materials and space are organized. For example, let's say I work with a student who loves technology and will snatch cell phones. I'm not going to leave my cell phone or my computer on the desk. I'm going to organize my physical space to really limit those things from happening. So thinking about the student and their needs and changing my space. Also with instruction, I have a student who hates math, and math is really, really challenging for them. So I think about, well, what's going to be more effective to kind of gain that momentum and that confidence in math if they're engaging in this escape-maintain behavior? They're trying to run out of the classroom every time they're presented with this math sheet that I give them after the lesson. So for these kind of students in the past, I've been really successful with planning out their instructions, so they're doing something that's maybe previously mastered or something that they understand or something with more support from me, and then slowly increasing those expectations. So they're feeling good about themselves and we're getting their confidence up. So that's planning and organization. Visual schedules, we'll go into a slide that shows some examples of this. Raise your hand if you have a visual schedule for all of your students, some of your students in the classroom. They're super helpful, even for adults and teachers. As a teacher, it really lends itself to that planning and organization and making sure that you're timing yourself in your transitions to really, students know what to expect next. And I think students do a lot better when they know what to expect next, especially with some of our students with ASD. This is a really effective strategy. They know their day. And yes, things definitely change from day to day, but we will talk about that with priming as another support. Sticking to the schedule. Intentional seating arrangements. So this comes in handy with our friends who are attention seeking with other students in the classroom. We want to be intentional about where we place them. A lot of IEPs you'll see most beneficial seating, and maybe you'll get a student the next year and you don't even know what that means. It's a pretty vague term, right? Most beneficial seating. It could be really close to the teacher, it could be close to the door, it could be far away from the door because the student engages in eloping. So really thinking about your student and their needs, sitting them next to peer models is helpful. Timers for transitions. When you're thinking about preferred to non-preferred or preferred activity, those timers are a lifesaver. I'm sure Brandon has some stories about some of our EBC kiddos and how they've used timers to transition effectively from recess to inside or from a break. So our students at EBC, we allow them access to breaks during academic time for up to 5 minutes, sometimes longer depending on specific students' plans, so they can engage in those coping strategies. We give them a timer, and they self-manage that and come back after the timer is done.
Yeah.
And we stick it, like we hold them to it. For our students that we aren't there yet with that trust of them coming back after that timer has gone off, we have our own timer, and then we check in with them after, and then we bring them back to class, and then we're really, really positive about them coming back to class and really, really reinforce that behavior because that's huge. Another strategy for that when you're using timers for transitions, just within the classroom, so students know it's time to move on to the next activity. We talked about transitions being super tough, even from one period to the next period. Visual timers are really helpful for students because they can see, I know next period is in 10 minutes. I really, really hate math, but I'm gonna be able to get through this. Intentional language will go into a lot more detail in another slide, just being really intentional with how you are wording things to kids in your language with students, especially as they're engaging in those challenges and struggles with you. Token economies and goal setting. We have some examples of token economies. Raise your hand if you have a token economy in place in your classroom or environment. Raise your hand if you don't know what a token economy is. Perfect, we're gonna go into that. So we're gonna be able to hit
that's a good one.
hit both of those, and then incentive programs. So what we do a lot here at EBC, positive reinforcement is the best way to get students to engage in appropriate behaviors. Research says that positive reinforcement really increases desired behaviors and puts undesired behaviors on extinction. When done in a way where you have the data to support the intervention that you're implementing. So we talked about all of those functions of behavior, so identifying those and then looking at some incentive programs for students. They know I'm gonna get some sort of really awesome thing if I'm able to engage in this instead of this. So we'll get into all of these in a little more specifics. So visual schedules. I made a really, really simple visual schedule. It took me not a lot of time. It doesn't need to be super hard. It doesn't need to be super beautiful. Morning routine, just having the time and the schedule. I have little boxes there, so for a student that I've worked with in the past, they are able to check off when they've done things because they love when it is the end of morning time and they know that they get to go to lunch. So it's a nice visualization of, I'm done with this, I've done this, I've done this, a way to feel success and know that they're working their way toward lunch, which they love. Pack-up routines. When I talk about transitions, morning routine, pack-up routines, hard for students. Organization and executive functioning is challenging, and just being able to follow a routine may seem really simple to us. Gosh, you just have to get your homework and put it in your backpack and then go. So having a consistent pack-up routine is something that I think that all classrooms and teachers should implement. It doesn't need to be as specific as this. For some of our older students who don't need this, eventually you want to fade some of these things out for students because you don't want them to become reliant on them, but you do want to make sure that there's very clear expectations. And I think that's really what a visual schedule supports, or a visual checklist for a pack-up routine or a transition routine.
That's a very good point. What's the age ranges we work in here? Like, what do we got from like elementary school? Elementary school. And most of you guys, any high school teachers in here? High school? Okay, I was a high school behaviorist here at Esther B. Clark for 5 years. And I noticed that like the kids that would transition from these visual routines upstairs to the high school room, and they were kind of getting it together. it was a really good thing to start them when they're young doing these things, because once they transition to the older stuff, they realize that it didn't go away. You just didn't need to talk about it anymore. And that really gave them a feeling of accomplishment. Like, these are the routines, these are the things you just do. Sometimes like, hey, did you remember that routine back in the day? Oh yeah, I remember that now, so let's just do it like that. Oh yeah, well, I have trouble remembering. Well, do we need to we can make it visual again if we need to. No, Mr. C, I got it. And then it was building that confidence and that ability to practice some of those executive functioning skills. And it was really a cool thing to watch them blossom like that. So starting with these type of strategies younger can really help benefit, and you can still open that pathway to dialogue for when they're in the older grades too.
And then some older students don't want these things so like out in the open in their face. They don't want to be different from their peers.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of ways that you can have them work with you on a schedule like this and have it in a binder so they can reference it as needed, or you could prompt them, hey, did you check your pack-up routine? It doesn't need to be something that is going to hurt their self-esteem, especially in front of their peers. We know that high schoolers and middle schoolers really thrive on that social interaction, and that's when self-esteem and things are questioned, for sure, especially with things like needing this kind of support in the classroom from the teacher, because teachers are not as cool anymore to middle schoolers and high schoolers. Okay, so we talked about intentional language. I mentioned intentional language. Directions versus suggestions. I want you guys to take away many things today from this, but I think that this is one thing that was really powerful for me as a teacher. Especially working with students with challenges. State a direction, not a suggestion or ask a question. Why? You want to be very specific in what you want a student to do. You want to be cognizant of too many words, especially if a student is engaging in challenging behaviors. It's hard, but economy of language is something really important to think about. When you're giving a direction, you don't want to give a question or a choice unless you're offering a question or a choice. So something as simple as, can you put that away, please? As opposed to, put it away, or I need you to put that away. If I ask him, can you put that away, please? It sounds really polite, but he could also...
I can.
Yeah. Provides an out.
Just let you know, I was looking at the slides too. I'm not checking Facebook, I promise.
Suggestions aren't direct and don't need to be followed. Some students will respond to, can you put that away, please? And you know, as you build relationships with students, you know the ones that you can approach like that. But I think just getting into a habit of always stating a direction as opposed to a suggestion, unless it's a suggestion.
What about the students who still, when you give that direction, refuse to do it?
That follow through, for sure. And that's challenging depending on the function. If it's access to tangible and they want that thing out, you're gonna have to think of something that's gonna be equally reinforcing for them, and we'll talk about that, because we wanna reinforce those, we wanna choose an alternative behavior and then reinforce that, so it's more reinforcing than whatever they're trying to do. And also consequences. I know a lot of you guys probably have school-based plans or consequences for a number of things. We have consequences for students not engaging in expected behaviors. They sometimes have to lose social time, and sometimes that's something that we'll talk about when we talk about consequence interventions.
There's a fancy term, I thought of it right now. I should have made a slide for you, Megan, but like I totally forgot. It's called teaching to the FERB. And the FERB is a functionally equivalent replacement behavior. So whenever you have something that, like, you keep running up against something, it's trying to find what that functionally equivalent replacement behavior is. And what that means is, like, what is that function they're trying to fulfill? How can you replace it with something that's more functional in their daily lives? You're not seeing unexpected behaviors out of that. Kids that often find, they're struggling to follow those directions. Okay, well, why are they not following the direction? Let's figure that part out. It's so quick to just dismiss it as like, oh, they're being defiant or they're being this. It's like, well, we don't know that for sure. Sometimes they very well will be, but sometimes if we really dig deeper into figuring out what they're trying to get at, what's that replacement behavior we need to find, then we can figure it out.
Maybe the student's seeking that power struggle. And sometimes it's best to just walk away and check in with them later. If it's a phone, for instance, that next day I would have that student check in the phone. And
we've had students that they have the only attention they get at home is the negative attention. So that's what they know how to get. And so what the functionally equivalent replacement behavior at that scenario would be teaching them how to get that positive interaction. hey, if you want your phone, why don't you just ask me for like 5 more minutes? We can work something out. Oh, okay. And you know, it doesn't work. It's not like a magical, like you'll wave the wand like that and then all of a sudden it works. But there's some place to start. You always have to kind of pick some place to start and figure it out.
And that delayed tolerance and providing them, if they're functionally asking, I need a few more minutes on this, and it's something you can provide, providing it, and then working on how do I get them to be engaging in the other behavior instead of having this out and not transitioning when I ask them a direction.
Or kind of going back to your visuals, if you visually have your rules up and you can kind of go over them in the beginning and say the consequences will be this, and you stick to that and it becomes a direction, then there's a consequence, and that's okay too. So.
Expected. Things that are expected. Okay, so reinforcing an alternative behavior. So what problem behaviors is the student exhibiting? What positive behavior do I want him or her to do instead? These positive behaviors are the behaviors you want to emphasize and reinforce. That's when that positive reinforcement comes in. And when you're teaching it, amping it up. Especially for the younger kiddos, it looks different for the older kids because that level of reinforcement is definitely different. They don't want you, oh my goodness, great job, you're doing so awesome, here's a sticker. It's gonna look different for those students. And then positive behaviors that you want them to generalize across settings long term. This is a long process for students. This can be something that you're working on all year for one behavior for one student. It is challenging, and a lot of work goes into this. So can somebody throw out, it doesn't need to be the thing on your paper, a problem behavior, a typical or a problem behavior that you see a lot in your classroom or environment?
Disrespect.
Disrespect. Can you describe what disrespect looks like?
Humming when they're not supposed to, making loud noises, yawning, so they get attention, disrupting a lesson. I can go on and on. I have a laundry list.
So let's go disrupting a lesson with the humming or yawning to get attention. So we've already identified it's attention seeking. The student does it so much more when peers are laughing or looking at them or following suit and mimicking the behaviors sometimes. So what do you,
Stop it.
yeah, so what do you do? Okay, so the first thing that you,
I thought that was an interesting definition. She's saying disrespect. You're saying attention getting. It's kind of different than disrespect.
that's, she had said that to get attention, and that's what I pulled from, because that's also why I asked, what does it look like?
Because it's
So-
easy to personalize
Yeah.
these things and feel like, oh, they are not respecting me.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to seeing it as a behavior that is trying to bring out.
And that's a good point. And
Believe
I-
me, we've had attention-seeking behaviors that are like, you know, we've had escape behaviors. I mean, you can have all these different functions that fit in that all look like being disrespectful, right? We've had kids that as they're kicking the door open, they're giving you the bird and they're telling you you're number one and walking out the door. Well, it's like it's easy to personalize that, making it, you know, that kind of thing. But it's like, that's when you start to think about it. Well, they're leaving the room. So there's obviously an escape component to this thing. Or they're engaging that argument with me because they want that back and forth. They want you to have that engagement with them, that argument with them. So yeah, as it comes across as being disrespectful, and it often is, that's where you have to kind of look past that layer and see what the function, why they're being disrespectful. This is a maladaptive behavior coping strategy. They've learned to get what they want, to fulfill that function. So that's a good point to start. It's very difficult to start wrapping your brain around, and that's typical. You know, I've had a lot of teachers that I've worked with that it's like, oh, I can't believe they do that. No, just ignore it. What do you mean, just ignore it? Trust me, I know it sounds crazy, but just just ignore it. And eventually, some of it will fade away, and we'll put it on extinguish. So, kids in the classroom, like Megan was alluding to it earlier, we've had students that will do like the excessive yawning, the excessive laughing, the excessive this and that. Creating that plan with your team to coach everybody in the room to ignore that behavior. And then you reinforce it with the other students. Hey, I like the way you're sitting down in your seat. Thank you very much. Hey, and then we'll come and that gets into some of the other strategies we'll talk about later, the token economies and things like that, earning those positive rewards for the target behaviors that you want to see. And then eventually, it takes a long time, but those behaviors will eventually fade away. Yeah.
So what do you do like this? There's 3 or 4 head people in the classroom that all of a sudden, the people who never talk all of a sudden jump on the bandwagon. They think that's funny, which at 13 and 14, they think that's funny. Of course, they're going to think that. But what do you do to stop that or curb that. You're not gonna be able to stop it. That would be ridiculous to think that, but to curb that until they get through puberty in your class.
Yeah. Definitely, as Brandon was saying, trying to reinforce those who are doing the right thing in class and making it highly motivating for students to do the right thing in class, establishing things like a token economy. We'll talk about habits of success later, and that really gets all students on board for one cause, and targeting in on some of those areas. So for instance, yawning, I would put that into the category maybe as shouting out or like making noises or disruptive noises in the classroom. So we can put in some proactive supports for the whole class to support that kind of thing, like a group contingency. For an individual student, let's say it's one student and he or she is getting peer attention from one other student, thinking about seating arrangements. Maybe that student is actually tired and they're bored, and they need to get up and move around. So I think something that's really powerful when you are working with students with challenging behaviors is having a conversation with them. What's going on? And getting their perspective. If they are able to have those conversations with you, I think that shows that you are somebody who is receptive and willing to listen to them to come to a positive outcome for them long term, and that you care about them and that you're noticing these things.
But do you stop the class if there's just one kid? Piggybacking on that, do you stop the class and say, Johnny, let's go outside and talk, or do you continue with your very important lesson and say, I will definitely make the time to talk to Johnny? What's your recommendation?
Follow up after, because in the moment there's still that attention. That could be something that's embarrassing for the student. It really is case by case basis in the setup of your classroom, and if you're able to step out, if you have the support of a co-teacher, having that conversation right away. But a lot of you guys don't, and I know that. Sometimes you're in the classroom solo with 30 students and you have to get through this lesson for those students. And that's why we talk about the positive reinforcement for all of the rest of the students, because we don't want to lose them just because of Johnny.
Yeah. And believe me, I've worked with teachers that just can't let it go. Like, it's really hard for them and they just can't let it go. And I understand the way that feels, And so one of the things I started coaching the teachers that I work with on, I go, think about it this way. If we have a student that's engaging in attention-seeking behavior and you stop your whole class and you pull them out to talking about them, not only did you just fulfill that function of the attention at an inappropriate time to delay the lesson, they just got the attention of every student in that classroom too. Every student in that microsecond knows that you're taking little Johnny outside, and they're going to do that. So then some of their kids, then you might get some dangerous territory. They start vying for that attention as well. Right. And so you create some more of those issues. So I agree with Megan 100%. Teach through it and then address it later.
If it gets to a point where you can't teach through it because it is so disruptive, making sure that you have a plan in place for that student, whether it be taking a break, stepping outside of the class, having another space for them to go and kind of do whatever they need to do until you can have that private conversation. Because some of the behaviors aren't just yawning. Some of the behaviors are a lot larger behaviors that are sometimes unsafe in the classroom. So having a plan for that, especially for those unsafe behaviors.
So sometimes it's hard not to call them on it. Is there a better way of just not, just calling it like it is? Because I know it ends up embarrassing the child, but in middle school, sometimes that's the only way they learn, if they get embarrassed. And, it's like your classmates, they have asked you to stop, is it wrong to call them on it like that?
I think the classmates asking peers to stop is one of the most powerful things that can happen, and advocating for their own learning. They're more likely to listen to their peers than the teacher at that point, in that age, in my experience. And every student is definitely different. And we're speaking generally here because I haven't seen your students in action or collected data on functions of behaviors and all of that. So yeah, definitely, I prefer private calling them on it, trying to get kind of close to them and giving them that reminder, and then coming back and then letting them know, like, whatever the consequences for that, or that's not acceptable in this class, I need you to step out. It really depends on the student and their comfort level. Some students you can give an eye to or a nonverbal signal, and sometimes that's really effective.
Yeah, I'll do a signal. I have a student, and I'll do a signal, and he has to add like a little 1 on a piece of paper, and then at break we'll meet a little while. Now we've been working on issues, and at the end of the day, his mom picks him up. How did I do today? How did I do today? And that goes to that positive behavior reinforcement, and I'll say better, but what do you think? And you know, I think so. I was jumping around a little bit, or I blurted out a little bit, but I don't know. We're getting there, little steps. But by the end of the year, we might get there, but then he's gonna go on to the next year. And it's like,
And that is sharing that information with the next teacher, because that is the hardest things for students, especially as we're nearing the end of the year, knowing that they're going to transition, and hopefully all this hard work that I did is not lost. I want to
Yeah.
say one more thing about alternative behaviors, and just thinking about students. That an example that I had a student who liked to tell inappropriate jokes in class. We had lots of conversations about it. I tried everything. I tried positive reinforcement. I tried everything I could, and I was like, what in the world would be an alternative behavior to inappropriate jokes in class? So I let him write his jokes down. They had to be school appropriate if he was going to share them with the class, and that's kind of a system that we created together. And it's something that I asked him, so you can't control this right now, it's really disruptive, and we had a conversation, but he was at a space where he could hear that, and that's something that could be effective for him. He told appropriate jokes to the class at the end of each class period, if he had any, and eventually he just stopped writing down his jokes. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he lost interest. He wasn't getting the reinforcement from his peers that he wanted, and it just kind of maybe grew out of it. Middle school student. So.
There's no bounds to your creativity
Yes.
that won't work on stuff like this. And I say that because I want to positively reinforce you guys that it's true. One of the coolest strategies that I saw behaviorists at EBC using it recently, and I was like, God, I wish I would have thought of that. They had all these little cool signs made with popsicle sticks, and the behaviorists walk around the room, the teachers are walking around the room, they have all these popsicle sticks with signs, so when a student would call out, they just raise a sign, like a little stop sign, says stop and think. And then it was like another student wouldn't respond, and it was like, good job. And they're continuing to teach, but they're just boom, boom. They're putting up these signs, and I'm like, I wish I would have thought of that, man. Like how much time could I have saved in the past, Because as a behaviorist, we have that luxury of pulling a kid out in the moment so the teacher can teach teaching. And I know that that's not realistic in the mainstream setting sometimes. So the creativity of just whatever you can do in the moment, that's a really good strategy. Like in the moment, hey, stop and think. You're not stopping the class to say that, but you're just like, boom, and that way and believe it or not, some of the other students can pick up on that. Like, well, I wanted to put the good job sign up, so I'm gonna back off and just try to get the good job sign. Boom, Another sign we had, we had another good sign, I can't remember what it was, but there's several different options, do you need a break, or then there was take a break, so it was like, do you need a break? And it was and then it was well, yeah, yeah, you need a break, so why don't you just, yeah.
Sometimes I have one kid who's really restless, and without him knowing, I said, do me a favor. Would you go, we have 2 stories, would you go downstairs, just go all the way to the other end of the building and then come right back? And just getting him out of the classroom and taking that walk and coming back, he was different. He needed that switch.
No, it's totally true, and that's a great strategy. I remember one time I had a student, similar thing, where it was I wrote something down on a piece of paper. Hey, man, I have this really important task I need you to go do here. Can you go deliver this down the hall to Mr. E? I need you to tell him this. Okay, great. He takes off down the hall, and Mr. E reads donuts later, and he's like, what's Carlton talking about? But it's but for the benefit of the kid comes back, and he's got some of those jitters out, and you give him that functional break without even letting him know he went on a functional break. So yeah, creative strategies like that are amazing. They work wonders.
Post-it notes for positive reinforcement and also reminders for students. Really, really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Less labor intensive than the popsicle sticks. If you're not willing to put in the effort yet until you know if it works, that's a good jumping off point. Okay, so positive reinforcement we talked about will increase the likelihood that the same behavior will occur in the future. Catch them doing something good and looking for that ratio. With some of our students who engage in challenging behaviors, it is hard sometimes as a teacher to catch them doing something good. So really trying to think about that student behavior that you wrote down, thinking about that student and how you can work on that 3-to-1 ratio. Really reinforcing and being positive with them and having those positive interactions so they don't associate every time Miss Vincent-Fox comes over to me, she's just gonna embarrass me in front of my peers and give me some sort of consequence, that negative association.
Mm-hmm.
We want to break that.
And this is a really good one. I mean, when you're given the feedback, in the moment, actually use this one today. You can warn them that this feedback is going to come. I had a student today where it was working on hearing feedback around PE. Student doesn't like the rules, then ends up in a temper tantrum because the other kids aren't doing the rules they want to do. And so had to address this with them, had to address it with the students. So it's like, hey, you know, come over here. I just want to tell you, I really like, the last couple of times we've talked about this, we've had a really good conversation. I really like that. So I want to keep that going. So I need to give you something, tell you something, and I'd really appreciate it if you handled it well. Okay, well, what do you need to tell me? Okay, this is what I need to tell you. I need you to kind of like, you know, not be so mean to the other kids when they're not following the rules. Please come check in with me and I'll help you. I would love to help you, and I know you can do a good job at it. See right there, you're layering in the expectation with the positive stuff. So you're still addressing the behavior, but there's a lot of positive words and dialogue you're using. That goes back to what the earlier slide, really thinking about the language you're using. And that goes a long way with them. Validating them and talking to them about it, but still addressing those behaviors that they need to improve on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It takes a lot of practice, you know, so you're not gonna get it perfect right off the way, but if you start trying every day, you know, it helps. It helps. So those like the sandwiches, you know. I like the way you do this, please do this. I like how you handled that. Or I'd appreciate it if this happened and I know you can do it. You can do it. So if you can't there, you think of something positive on the back end, give that encouragement. I know you can do this. You know, they really like to hear, you know, because some kids, they get so anxious, they get like, you know, I can't do this. Yes, you can. We can work on it together. We can make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Positive reinforcement can look a lot of different ways. It can be that verbal praise. It can be that gesture to them, like a little thumbs up. It can go as far as edible reinforcement, so candy, things like that, extra snack, special job for students who like that attention and time to shine, letting them have an opportunity to get up in front of the classroom in a positive way. So really ramping up the things that you're allowing that student to do. Sometimes it does seem really unfair to other students, and you'll get into that, especially with younger kiddos. Why is so-and-so always the helper? So making sure that you're sharing that wealth with some of our, I call them middle children, the students that are not the students that are making me want to tear my hair out at the end of the day some days, or the students that are always perfectly behaved, never an issue. Those students, we don't want to forget about our middle children. So being mindful of that when you are working with the full class setting, but making sure that you are finding those opportunities for that positive reinforcement with your most challenging students.
I call them the ones that are flying under the radar. You know what I mean? They're just like flying low. Hey, how's so-and-so doing? I guess they're doing okay. I haven't heard from them in a week. Guess I should look into that, huh? They're flying under the radar. Yeah.
So token economies.
Oh, yeah. Token economies are great. And like it says, the student receives tokens, stickers, stars, points, whatever you feel comfortable with. And again, it's one of those things where whatever the boundaries, the only boundaries of this are the boundaries of your imagination. I've had, you know, we had the fair tickets. You can buy a whole roll of them for $10 and it'll last you at least 3 years, I promise. Like, you recycle them. And that was one of the biggest things for positive reinforcement. You see catch a behavior you like doing. Student raises their hand, answers the question appropriately, sits back down, boom, drop all those tickets on their desk, and then you have something set up later. It's like, you know, you have like a student, we've had student stores. We've had, my favorite one, we'll get into a little bit later, was a habits of success, targeting those behaviors you want to see, and then having a schedule of rewards they can, you know, earn. This many class points gets us this incentive. This many class points gets this incentive. I really like to frame these things. We live in a society now where it's like get, me, I want. It's like, great, how are you going to earn it? You know, oh, I want it now. That's nice. You're not going to get it now. Because I want my paycheck now, but I got to wait till next week, all right? That's the adult version. That's what I tell them. They trip out on it all the time. Adults have incentives too. We do come to work, we do a good job, we get paid, okay? But we don't get it until next week. Your job is come in here and do your math work, and I can get you the incentive now, but you got to work for it. If you don't work for it, then we can't get it. So the prospect of them earning it, we got to really reinforce that and install that. That's why I love the token economy. We have a school-wide right here where it says reinforcement item can be earned quickly, like computer time, or it can be slow, the food. Or it can be delayed. New video games, new stuff later on. Also, food can be delayed too. Like I said, no bounds to your creativity. EBC, we have the monthly behavior barbecue. Every week, there's student of the week for most improved, best behave. At the end of the month, all those students that won that award, they go to the big barbecue. You know, oh man, I didn't win the barbecue this week, Mr. C. That's right, there's next week though. Like, come on, I know you can do it. Let's get those math homework turned in. Let's get it done together. We can work it out. Oh, okay, cool. So you can have long-term incentives, and they're kind of like, what makes a token economy work is the intervals that you put it in. So you don't want to make it so hard that they can't reach that incentive, but you also want to put it far out that they're working for it. Yeah.
How do you scaffold out when they're receiving the tokens? Because what I find is sometimes like you do it more frequently at the beginning of the year, but then that becomes the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they're not doing those behaviors on their own, it's just about the...
So you're going to want to start out with a fixed schedule of reinforcement where it is a lot. You're teaching them the system, you need to be reinforcing it a lot, and then slowly as they're being successful, let's say after 2 weeks, the student is always earning all of their tokens and getting all of the things. You want to start a plan for fading. With any of these kind of systems, you want to think about plans for fading, especially when we talk about kids transitioning to other schools or other classrooms the next year. That plan for fading becomes important because they can't rely on a token economy their whole entire life. That's going to be challenging. So after that, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, really collecting that data, seeing that success, going to a more variable schedule of reinforcement. Variable schedules of reinforcement are going to produce your highest successes with these sort of token economies or any sort of reinforcement. So listing out the behaviors that are the desired behaviors that they're earning stuff for, but not giving it to them every time. Maybe every 3 times, maybe every 4 times about that they've exhibited that behavior. And having that conversation with them if they're at a place that they can hear that, especially with older elementary and middle school students, talk about their success. You've been doing so great with this. We're going to start working toward you doing more to earn this. And having those conversations, students that aren't at a place to hear that, having those variable schedules, and they might not even notice.
Yeah.
That's something as you want to have those conversations with your students, but there are students cognitively who just aren't at that space. I worked in a self-contained autism class for 2 years where my students, I couldn't have those conversations with them. Many of them were nonverbal. They understood their system of reinforcement, and eventually we faded that system through variable ratio schedules of how often they were being reinforced for their desired behaviors.
And that goes to if they've started also maintaining that behavior on their own and you're still reinforcing that, then stretch that schedule out and further and then eventually just fade it out like Megan was saying. We've had students here that's hey, wait a minute, I've been doing this for 2 months now and you guys haven't given me anything. Well, you've been doing fine. You obviously don't need it anymore. It's what you're supposed to do. Also, it helps when they get up into the high school levels too. Having that dialogue with them about their maturity and their maturation curve and raising the expectations. I've had students that come from me at EBC we had a behavior teaching PBT system, behavior teaching system, where their behaviors are ranked and they're scored and their privileges are dispersed among what scores they have. So obviously the top score, they get all their privileges and things like that. So I've had high school students that walk up to me and it's well, I need a 3+ because a 3 is the maximum you can get, right? And in the high school level, I really made a 3+. It's you got to go above and beyond the call of duty for me to give you this. So I've had students that would walk up to me and go well, I came in and I sat down and I did my homework and I listened to the teacher and I did my classwork and then I followed all your directions. I should get a 3+. It's well, what's the criteria for having a 3? Meeting basic expectations. Well, exactly. So you met basic expectations now. So you can now meet basic expectations. So if you want that plus, let's talk about how you can go above meeting basic expectations. Let's talk about what that looks like. And so, of course, when they're at baseline, that's the easiest time to do that. We can talk about escalation cycles and all that kind of stuff. But when they're at baseline and they're calm and you're talking to them about how they can earn these things, that's a really good dialogue to have with them. Making sure that they understand what your base expectation is and what is above that base expectation. How are you going to fade this off eventually in the future? A lot of those conversations are completely worth having. Yeah.
What are you guys' thoughts on Class Dojo? Great.
Anything that works for your class. We have a class at EBC who uses it as a supplement to our PPT system, and it's been effective. I think if you are consistent with anything, it's great. Also, the home to school component where parents can actually check is really helpful if you don't already have that built into your positive behavior systems. Yes.
This is kind of a follow-up question. When you're having those conversations about the kids, okay, you're doing a really good job, we're going to try to go longer. I've had a lot of kids say, well, that's not fair, and a lot of pushback there.
Longer conversations. It takes a while. I've had students self-sabotage when we start to fade out some of their plan, and we have to go back and have more of those conversations. Sometimes you slide back a little bit before you can go forward. And also having that conversation with them that I've seen you do this marvelously. I want to be able to provide you with this still. I can't do that if you're just going to continue to engage in X, Y, and Z.
There's 2 conversations along those lines that I've had that I think I've been very successful with. And the first one is yeah, I know that doesn't feel fair. I totally get it. Like, but I believe in you that you can move on. I believe that you can reach that next level. You want to do it? I will. And then it's like validating that and telling them, I will help you do that. But I can't do it for you. You have to work with me to do this. We can do it together. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. And the other conversation that I've had with them is, it's like, you know, I've already done it, so it's kind of your turn now, you know? And they're like, well, what do you mean? So it's like, I already passed 4th grade. Did it a long time ago. I know how to do it, but I can help you do it. So it's your turn now, and I know you can. And so, you know, that's kind of like that life lesson, right? You know, things happen in life all the time that we don't think are fair, you know? Like, oh man, like I was only going 2 miles an hour and that officer pulled me over, you know? I like to equate it to some adult kind of real world scenarios that they can see. They see their parents go through some of those struggles. You just need to figure out how we can shrink that down, that microcosm of what they deal with on the everyday level. And that's how I get around some of those, get them to buy into some of those plans. And it works really well, works really effective, you know?
And also, it's like if you have a student who's blurting out all the time, like during that time, and then they quit blurting out. Or you know, they've done the reinforcement system and they're not blurting out anymore, but they're still not really handing in their math work all the time. Then I don't know, I would think it would be appropriate to say, okay, you've quit blurting out, that's awesome, you've done such a great job with that. Now let's work on getting your paper turned in the class, so that there's still opportunity for reinforcement.
Absolutely. Letting them know that's the next step. It's all about the continuum of self-improvement, right? And that you're willing to help them with that. You know, and that's one of the things I always tell them. It's like, look, it'd be easy for me to like, I love the students that, you know, you're pestering me. One of my favorite things a student ever said to me was, you're trying to brainwash me. And I said, well, by getting you to turn in your homework and get good grades and go off to college and have a successful life, yeah, I guess I'm trying to brainwash you, like, you know, if you want to put it that way. But it'd be, I said, let's think about it the other way. Would it be easy for me to like leave you alone? Well, yeah, it would. Yeah, it would be easy for me to let you sit in the back of the room and do whatever the heck you wanted and not deal with you, right? Well, yeah, it would, Mr. C. But would that make you feel good? Well, no. Well, why wouldn't it make you feel good? Well, I don't know. And then you know, they'll say, I always say, I don't know. And then I go, because it shows you that I wouldn't care about you. And because I care about you and I want to help you out, and I'm willing to help you out, that's why we're going to go through this journey together. We're going to tackle this challenge together. Let's just get it done. I know it stinks. Let's just do it though. So getting them to buy into it, I absolutely think that's a very healthy conversation to have with your students. Always talking about that next step. Sometimes I start talking about the next step before we even got to the next step. You're doing really well on this. Don't worry. Next week we're going to tackle this problem. Okay, we're going to get it done. Really, Mr. C? Yeah, well, but it's okay. I'm here with you. You know, we're going to have it. It's going to happen. You know.
The other thing before we move on that I want to make sure to mention, when you're doing any of these systems, you need a plan for fading. Do not just stop. You think that a student's mastered it until you've gone through that whole process with them. Don't just stop the system, and that's where, again, it gets challenging when a student transitions to a new classroom. Making sure this follows them, because it's something that's proven to support their behaviors. A lot of teachers are like, oh great, he's not engaging in, he's not running out of the classroom anymore. So I could stop this, he hasn't done it in weeks, but really that's been the support, the proactive support that the students really needed to motivate them not to engage in that behavior. So being really cautious with your plan for fading any of these things and not just taking it away from a student altogether. And then to build off of what Brandon said, really understanding your students' preferences, because you want that buy-in, what they're interested in, having those conversations with them, and really building the relationship. We can tell you all day about all of these strategies, but the most important thing that you guys can do for the students who are engaging in challenging behaviors is forming a really strong relationship with them and trying to hear them and letting them know that you're a person who can be on their team. It might take a while. Some of them have walls up, and you need to break them down slowly but surely. But that vested interest in them and their success really goes a long way. Longer than any token economy will get you. So we're gonna look at, we talked about habits of success. We found an example that we use in our high school and middle school classes here, and many high school and middle school classes use, because we wanted to make sure that we were touching on all the age groups that we get here. So Brandon.
Yeah, this is one we came up with a couple of years back, and it seems to be really successful. Was there another picture of like the target behaviors?
There was, but it didn't fit on the slide.
Oh man, so we've got a list of like what are habits of success. Like I love reading the IEP goals, especially when you get a new kid and you look at the IEP goal and it's like little Johnny will sit in his chair and stop calling out and go to lunch on time and get to school on time. And it's like, yeah, I want all those things to happen at once too, right? Good luck. You know, it's hard to, you know, if you're really going to isolate what behaviors that are the most pervasive, what are you going to see? What do you want to improve the most? Sometimes you got to make some concessions. You got to ask yourself, yeah, I don't like that they get up and they go to the bathroom every day at 10 o'clock when they're not supposed to, but they're calling out as to stopping the classroom from, from getting success even more. So let's target that one behavior first. How you can do it with a little bit more behaviors and kind of disperse it amongst the classroom, have success. So we have like 5 behaviors that we target. One was like, not, raising a positive hand, positive comments in class, being proactive, and that was kind of defined by like, them asking for their homework or them writing their stuff down first, asking appropriate on-topic questions in class. So let's just leave it at that 4 for now. So let's just like, there's 4 really good behaviors you want to target in the classroom. So as you're teaching, and the behaviors to do it or the teacher would do it, it's replacing of tickets and tokens and things like that. But this is an example of a token economy. You're just like, oh, you like this response. Somebody raised a hand. Boom, put a point up. Oh, you like this appropriate response. Boom, put it, hey, can I use the restroom? I want you to, but can you wait 5 minutes till we're done with the lecture? Okay, yeah, sure, boom. Okay, good, you're attending, you're on time, you're on target, you're doing well. So putting those points up, it's something they can see. They want to get enthusiastic about how they can earn them. They don't want to be the student that's not earning them. They want to be the students that are earning them. And then we have a schedule over here where it was like, we do it on a monthly basis. So it was like 50 points at the end of the month. If they got 50 points, they win like a cool classroom game. So this month they chose charades. 75 points, they got a nacho party, one of my favorites, right? 100 points, they got to watch the movie Spirited Away. And I don't know what it is. These kids, they wanted to go to the airport for a field trip. I guess they wanted to learn like about TSA and like how to not get in trouble at the airport. I'm sure there's a story behind that. I don't know what it is, okay? I don't know if I want to. But again, you hear me talking about that's what they chose. Again, another good way of getting their buy-in. What I like to do is I like to have these, like I'll collect all their ideas, and then I have these cards and I'd laminate them. At the beginning of every month when we'd switch over, it was like, all right, pick a card, and the one kid would pick a card. Okay, so this is going to go here. So Nacho Party may be switched out for Donut Party, and Spirited Away will be switched out for Ghostbusters, and the airport will be switched out for the zoo. And so, and you can. What's cool is if you notice they're reaching a certain incentive too much or not enough, you can adjust that just by the point values. Or this is a talk about fading. This is one I liked, where it was like, okay, you guys have been hitting the charades game really easy every month. Let's up that expectation a little bit. Let's just up it by 10 points. Let's see if you guys can do it. I think you can. So you can turn that upping that expectation to a very positive thing for them. You guys are doing rock stars. I know you can do it. Or you can even make the field trip really big, right? Oh, you guys want to go to, if we were like money was no object and we really wanted to, I can imagine you want to take a whole class to Disneyland, but you're like, let's go to Disneyland, make it huge for them. Make your parents take you to Disneyland. No, don't do it to your parents. They get mad at you.
So I kind of do have something we're gonna go on the field trip.
Okay.
What if they don't make that? And that's just it.
That's it.
See, I'm one of them.
That's a very important thing. If they don't get it, they don't get it. And that's where you.
Oh, no, I don't want to go.
The reinforcement, it doesn't work if they're going to get it anyway. And that's like, there's 2 different rules that I always used to kind of sit down with my classroom team and really talk to them when it came to stuff like this. Is number 1, if they earn it, don't take it away from them. So it was like, I've had teachers that it's like, oh, well, they've been acting horrible today. We're not watching that movie. It's like, no, they earned the 50 points all month long. They've been working for it. You have to give it to them because then you're going to break that trust with them if you don't give it to them. Part of this is about building that relationship and building that trust. So you're trying to extinguish those behaviors. They worked all month. Doesn't matter if they had that bad day. Give it to them. And the second thing is, if they're like 5 points away, you can encourage them. What can we do between today and next week to earn those 5 points? But if they don't make it, they don't make it. You gave them all the opportunities. It's going to lose its weight and its gravity to that situation if you just give it to them anyway. Because they're going to learn, oh, I can just get into 5 points away, and I'm going to get it anyway. Yeah, and you don't want them to start doing that because then they'll learn that pattern. So yeah, you have to be strong sometimes. It is difficult. I always want the kids to win. I'm an underdog story type person, Come on, guys, you can get it. Oh man, we're not going on the field trip. What a bummer, I've also had kids that last couple of years ago, we had a student that I can't remember which movie we were going to see. We were going to go see a movie, and none of the high school kids wanted to go. Oh, we don't want to go see that movie. This and that. Fine, we're not going. Really? Yeah. You guys don't want to go. Why would I'm not going to force you to go do something I don't want to. I'm going to put up a bunch of behavior problems because you don't want to go there. So why would I do it? Well, we really did want to go. Then why didn't you say you didn't? Like never take, all those teachable moments, right? Never, pass up a moment to get off campus for free. Come on, guys. And so teaching them all those lessons, they all, your planner is only as good as we're willing to reinforce the integrity of your plan. So once you get that plan, it's like the consistency, stick to it. Ironclad, this is it. So yeah, and they love it. They thrive off it.
Make sure that the things that you pick are novel and you're switching them out. It cannot be you guys are in a movie every single time, because then it does not become, it's not as effective anymore for the students. They're like, oh, I gotta watch a movie again. It's just now become routine. Really getting their buy-in. They're picking the things. They're rotating out. It's not always going to be the same thing every time. That goes for individual student plans as well. You want to have a whole plethora of reinforcers for those students and be switching them out frequently. Those high value reinforcers, the things that they value the most, typically screen time, are things that you use for some of the most challenging behaviors that you're trying to work on. Those big goals. So student was safe for 20 minutes of a class period, they get some time on their game on their phone, for example. And then switching that out every once in a while, so it's not always screen time.
I like throwing them the curveballs. Mr. C, we just won the donut party, and we don't want the donut party again. All right, well, I bought it, and we don't want to eat those Krispy Kremes. Well, I guess I'm going to eat these Psycho Donuts in by myself and get the s'mores one over here. Oh, no. Oh, all of a sudden the donut party is, like, interesting again. You just got to make it, change it up a little bit. Change it up.
Behavior contracts can be done with individual students or a whole class. Some school districts have schools do class charters. I've been at school districts before, having those students buy-ins, collaborating with a student or the class to identify desired classroom behaviors. What do you need in the classroom? What behaviors are expected? And what behaviors are unexpected, and really listing them somewhere that they can see, whether that be individually for a student in their desk, in their folder, or for the whole class, and referencing those frequently. Not forgetting about them this time of year when you haven't gone over them. Do refreshers with the students. You can add things that come up throughout the year. But again, when we talk about that student buy-in, this is huge to support a whole classroom as well as individual students.
No, about like you're talking about refreshing it and stuff, that's often one of the hardest things to do. I've actually kind of realized that, like, when we do class contracts or stuff like that, we don't always do them, but when we do, a strategy that I've come to realize from other literature sources I've pulled from, a good chance to do it is like around the holidays and the seasonal changes. And that kind of helps you guys out. Like Thanksgiving is a good one. As I kind of start there. You start at the beginning of the year, you start off real strong, and then you get to November, right? And it's like, well, Thanksgiving, what are we thankful for? Oh, I have an idea. Let's look at our class contract. Let's talk about what we're thankful for. What are we going to be thankful for going into the next part of the season? Then you get into New Year's, right? Hey, it's a new year, new beginning. Let's look at the contract again and see what's changed with us. And it gives them that opportunity to be reflective about how that first half of the year went and change it again. We're coming up on another big one, spring, right? You guys have come a really long way, and we've done a really good job at springtime. It's a fresh time of year. Let's start looking at what we can do to freshen up our contract again. Let's look at what we can do to freshen up how we're treating each other again. And so I really use those natural kind of cycles to my advantage to kind of help them start thinking about that kind of stuff and to get them enthusiastic and involved. Because also when you do it in a continuum like that, and it's kind of a living document that's changing, you get their buy-in. They can also see that progress. A lot of the students, they have a hard time seeing that progress, right? If you have a student that starts off at the beginning of the year and you're having an uphill battle, a lot of these struggles, chances are they're still seeing that in December, January, February, March. But if you have a chance to revisit that with that particular student or that classroom and say, look, this is where we started, and now look at where we're at. You guys have done a wonderful job. Let's keep making that progress. Let's reach for that next higher bar, okay? You guys are doing a wonderful job. And that way you build in that kind of automatic positive reinforcement with that as well.
And also having those conversations about unexpected behaviors or inappropriate behaviors for the classroom. What strategies can you use in those moments? What spaces within the classroom or the school can you use when you're starting to feel frustrated or you need a break? And really identifying those, and then again, at those changes, reminding students of those things and like asking them, is this working for you? Because if it's not working for you, you should think of something else to provide. So let's say that you have a cozy corner in your class where a student can go hang out on a beanbag, but it's not something that is effective for them. They're still engaging in these things, really talking with them about other ways to use that. Or if a whole group of students is using your cozy corner to be off task and loud during your lessons instead of using it the way it's intended to be used, just revisiting that and really having those conversations with your students, because you want to also understand that you do have students with unexpected behaviors, and unexpected behaviors are going to happen, but you want them to know what they do in those moments. First then, pre-MAC principle. So access to a preferred item or activity is contingent upon the engagement in a specific behavior. When we talked about intentional language, this is a really great thing to do. First finish 4 math problems, then you can listen to music. First put your materials away, then you can go outside. So really giving them that structure through language.
This is a huge one. I love this one. As a behaviorist, like I love to walk out when they're having a kid that you know that their non-preferred subject is math, and they either want to leave the room or start an argument or get access to that preferred tangible. Start them off on something small, lower that expectation. I'll walk up to them and I'll draw a line on their paper under the first 4 math problems and go, do just this 4, and if you do that, then you're gonna earn that, you'll earn music. You're gonna earn that break outside. Then we'll come back and we'll do the next 4 together. We'll figure it out. So you're moving that along. Plus it takes away that overwhelming factor, right? They see 40 problems on a math sheet and it's like, okay, let's just worry about the first row. Let's just get through that first. So this is a really good principle to keep in mind.
And easy. If you're engaging in something with a student and they're struggling and they're starting to get into that power struggle, leaving them with first finish 4 math problems, then you can blank.
Mm-hmm.
Making a plan. So this is where all of our learning comes into play. So you identified a problem behavior for a student. You want to identify the function or purpose. Why is a student doing this? Some of you guys may know why a student's doing this. Some of you guys might need some additional observation with that student to figure out what is maintaining this behavior. Is it attention? Is it escape? Is it sensory seeking for some of these behaviors? Is it access to tangible? Are they getting something they want out of this? Thinking about that alternative behavior. Sometimes that alternative behavior serves the same function of attention. So for instance, the student that I talked about who was writing or stating inappropriate jokes, having him write them down so he could get the appropriate positive peer attention at the end of the class period. Develop your environmental controls. So this is the first thing that you're going to want to look at is your environment set up for the student to be successful? What things can I change or modify to really support the student's success in my classroom, in my office, etc. Create a strategy to reinforce that alternative behavior. So that positive reinforcement, those schedules of reinforcement, those token economies, thinking about things that you can do. You don't have to go overboard. It can be as simple as just providing that student with additional attention and praise. Reactive strategies, extinction and punishment. So thinking about consequences that you guys have embedded into your programs at your schools, or things that you can do with students, whether it be extinction procedures, so ignoring a behavior if it's attention seeking, or possibly students sitting out time at recess or serving detention. Being consistent is the key to all of this. We talked about accidentally reinforcing behaviors. Sometimes we do this when we're not consistent. It's hard. But most important thing that you can possibly do once you make a plan is be consistent, because you don't want to put all of this hard work into the plan and meet with the team and do all of these things and it not to work because you guys can't all be consistent with it. And then firm but fair.
Yeah. And what that usually means too is like, is a very important concept that I've encountered many times. Who's ever implemented a new plan and then day one it like blows up in your face? Yeah, me too, like thousands of times. And that's actually not something it's typical. And when I say that, people usually like, really, it's typical. Whenever you implement a new behavioral strategy, minimum, do not make any alterations to that plan. Be firm but fair, steadfast for 2 weeks. Because what you're seeing is you're seeing what's called an extinction burst. Student doesn't like the new expectation, they don't want to follow the new expectation, and they've learned that if they pitch enough of a fit or they do those old behaviors that got them out of the expectation, then you've just reinforced those expectations. So stick to the plan, be firm but fair, and watch for that extinction burst. Give it 2 good weeks, and then if you're still seeing the same behaviors, after 2 or 3 weeks, it's like, okay, well maybe this plan isn't working, but you got to give it some time. Sometimes it's a really big uphill battle for at least those first 2 weeks, and then it kind of levels out. So be aware of that extinction burst. Yeah.
Just to give a suggestion to anybody, I do have a lot of problem kids in my classroom, and one thing that I've implemented has been mindfulness in my class. I've brought in experts, and we meditate now. We began our day with a meditation for 3 minutes, and I have my problem kid actually leading the medication. I literally have had subs where the student has raised their hand and said, we began our day with meditation. It really does help, ladies and gentlemen. It really does. Makes a difference.
Mm.
There are apps online you can go on. It really helps.
Yeah.
And it just being part of the student's day.
They're expecting that. They know that we start every day with this. They're really seeking that.
You know, those are great strategies. Also, if you have the chance to do some kind of physical activity first in the morning, I went to Cal ABA last year, and one of the biggest things we're talking about in ABA is like it's a 40 or 50% reduction in problem behavior if you have something active to do first thing in the morning. So if you have that, if there's like an open form, outside activity they're doing as they're arriving to school, and you have that one kid that's having that problem behavior, but you notice they always come straight to the classroom, just sit down, ask them to go outside, get involved in some of those activities, coach them, say, okay, hey, let's go play the game together. Some of those are also some good strategies,
So we're going to open up for the last couple of minutes to questions for people. Thank you guys all for coming. It was great to talk to you guys. This is a subject near and dear to my heart, so I could talk about it all day, and we had to be concise. So thank you. Yes.
I have a very rare situation this year, and I need suggestions. My student is verbally threatening, and fifth grader. I'm going to blow up the school. I'm going to come back and shoot everyone. He said to a student, I'm going to shove a gun up your ass. Today in class, he mimicked a rifle loading, and I asked him what his intent was with that, and he looked me in the eye and said, it's a gun. And when I asked him to leave the classroom and go to the office, he says, it's not like I could do that. In this day and age, I feel there is zero tolerance for it, but because he has a behavior plan, because he is emotionally disturbed, has his IEP, it feels like it's me against the world, because what are my rights? What are my students' rights? Mm-hmm. I definitely need help in this area. This act of gun threatening to me was today.
Mm-hmm.
And have you advocated with your admin?
We have had four IEPs for this student this year, totaling 7 to 8 hours now.
And I think typically those things, especially with everything that's going on right now, are taken very seriously and should, despite students with emotional and behavioral challenges. I would suggest if you guys have a school counselor and they're not already part of this plan.
The psychologist is part of the plan, but ineffective. So what would be your suggestion for further steps? I left the classroom today.
Yeah.
I have to make a stand for myself and for my students.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what's next? The parents actually would love to send their child there to SB. And I think that would be a perfect fit for him. He would love me. I don't know what my next steps are. Do I call in 6 days until I get my union rep to meet with the district? I get that we need to be sensitive for children, but this is beyond.
Oh, and especially if you're worried about the greater good of your class and yourself and your safety, if you're feeling like you're actually in a position where you're unsafe, you need to continue to fight for what you need and what that student needs, and having the family part of that conversation, the school mental health team part of that conversation, because those are concerning things. Mm-hmm. And yeah, maybe it's an attention-seeking behavior and they just want the attention. But then there needs to be a really firm plan in place to have this stop and not get to a place where people are feeling unsafe. Some proactive supports in terms of just additional monitoring for a student and clear guidelines of what happens when a student says this and how do we follow through as a school to address this issue, because I'm sure that there's parents of families that have also been complaining.
And I would definitely, another step that you could take, and I think without any crossing any lines or any ethical lines or anything like that, ABC data. What that means is antecedent behavior consequence, right? So starting to kind of like take your own little notes. I would document. Oh, I have been. Yeah, so take your own little notes about, and it's important when tracking like behavioral stuff like this, what's the antecedent, what's the behavior, what's the consequence? Now the consequence isn't necessarily a negative thing, but it's like how is it being responded with? And so, what's the stimulus that's going on that he's making these comments? That way you can kind of really paint a clear picture to the psychologist and what's going on. If the student's making these comments because you're asking him, well, I need you to sit down in your chair and do your work, like that's, the reaction doesn't the behavior doesn't match the stimulus there. So I definitely do that and take Megan's advice. Yeah.
And I would work on getting the psychologist in your class for observations as much as
Absolutely.
they can. 'Cause I know psychologists are busy and getting them into classes for those things. They just hear what you say from the classroom perspective.
Well, the parents support it, so.
And that's great. That's very helpful that you guys have the parents on board, because I think that's sometimes the part that is a little more challenging. It's now just getting that admin to follow through in something that's going to make everyone feel safe.
So I work at a private school in Los Altos, and we have a lot of toxic parents. And so I have pretty good buy-ins from my middle schoolers. But the problem occurs when a behavior happens, the student knows it's wrong, you have that conversation, it's awesome, and then you have all of the flack from the parents. Like, the student is perfect, and so it's like this, mistakes don't exist, so they can't be learned from. And I just really don't know what to do in those situations, especially when you have a principal who is not backing you up.
Been in those situations, and it's really important to have that admin support. That's so crucial as a teacher because you have so much on your plate, especially when dealing with challenging parents. I would, like Brandon was talking about ABC data, make sure you have your data. Make sure you have lots of data to support the interventions you're using for students, the consequences you're using for students, and just making sure you're consistent. That communication between home and school when a student is engaging in some challenging behaviors, making sure you don't fall off on that, and making sure the parents are looped in, because typically when parents feel like they are not looped in, it becomes more of a challenge, making sure that that communication is documented, and also I would CC admin on it.
So all those things have happened, and it's just, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, we just had a principal resign in Los Altos because of parent bullying. So I just felt like, you know, there is no union for private schools there. So do I quit my job? Because I, you know, like I love teaching, I love my kids. It's just really, it's kind of insane.
The hardest part is that you don't have your principal.
Exactly.
Because I also work at a Catholic school, and and the principal is really essential, you know.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we have difficult parents, and we usually learn by getting burnt the first time, and they complain, you know, we also have to just tell ourselves, well, you know what, you also have your life. If that kid, if you care for that kid so much more, and the parent doesn't think he does anything wrong, then let the parent deal with it when they get to high school, because that's what they're going to face.
One of the personal anecdotes that I have in this line of work, and one of the things that I get, you know, asked the most, you know, 18 years working with kids, especially in the youth crime stuff, you know, going on 9 years working here for CHC, and one of the biggest questions I get asked is, how do you not get burned out? And the first thing I say, it happens, you know, but that's why self-care is very important. But kind of how I've learned to cope with that is I'm comfortable not seeing the results. And what I mean by that is you just do the best you can every day. And sometimes the parents will appreciate it, and sometimes they won't. Believe me, I've had parents that think I'm the worst thing to hit the planet. I've also had a lot of parents that appreciate what we do. And so it's for that type of stuff that you just got to start telling yourself, like, you know, you're doing the best job for that kid every day. It may take them until they get 18 and move out of their parents' house and they realize, wow, that was really toxic, but so-and-so back here cared for me. And they taught me these lessons. And that's what helps me keep one foot in front of the other sometimes, you know.
And I think finding a work person, it may not be your admin, just somebody that you can talk to about these things. Because you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because if a parent is constantly sending you angry emails, like, that wears on you. But also sometimes it helps me to think about that parent's perspective. In my circle of influence, I can influence what happens during the school day. I can't influence what happens at home or that parent's perception of me. If I've done all of the things I could possibly do, I know that I'm doing a good job. I have that affirmed from coworkers. When it becomes to a place where it's verbally abusive, that's when I would make sure that an admin is the person who's responding to those emails. And I hope that it's not at that place, but you need to advocate for yourself, because that's not something that you should be receiving or responding to.
I really like what you said about sort of delayed gratification for ourselves, because it is sometimes feeling like you're beating your head against a wall when you're trying to sort of come about change. But then I remember when I grew up, and I remember my 5th grade teacher and what she said to me, and it's so strong in my mind, and I may not have heard it then, but it came back to me later. So I do feel the impact you're making, whether it's immediate or not, it's there, and it's positive.
I mean, we all go through that kind of stuff too as human beings. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, my parents were morons till I hit 25. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, everything makes sense. It was like, you know, and so the kids are a microcosm of that. Like, you know, you're giving them that information, and eventually sometimes you get to see it and it's beautiful. I've seen kids have that natural maturation curve, and all of a sudden I show up to work one day and it's like, okay, all of a sudden you're doing everything I've been telling you to do for the last 6 months. Like, what happened? You know, it's like, it just happens sometimes. It all falls into place, so you just got to keep doing the work, you know, and that's the hardest part to do sometimes. Just keep forging ahead. You got a hand up, and then I saw you, yeah.
Just wondering, I mean, how do you get your, the void inside of you to be stronger? Because you must have great support from your administration. You must have great acknowledgement from them in order for you to carry on.
We're pretty blessed here. You know, I believe it. You know, EBC. We've got a team talking about some of the parent issues. I know how pervasive they can be. It's a mandate in our program that they have to participate in family therapy, so that helps out the families. But we have those times where those parents are just sending those emails, and we do have a lot of support from our admin. That's one thing that we are very blessed with here. But also, like I said, for me, it's just kind of that personal affirmation that, like, I know that someday, you know, I'm going to have a kid that's going to come back around and tell me how much I made a difference in their life. And for me, if it's one kid, it makes a difference.
Or maybe not, but that you still make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. No, a lot of them don't. And you just gotta believe. And sometimes it could be the small things. You know, I run into. I went to the drive-thru at McDonald's like a month ago, and I had like, you know, I'm $2.50, please pull up, and I'm like in my car digging around for my money, and it was like I go to put my money, it was like, hey, Mr. Carlton, and it was like, okay, well, hey, I'm happy you have a job, like, you know, obviously doing okay, you know, it's that kind of, it's a little thing sometimes, but it's difficult. You just gotta keep telling yourself it's okay. Plus, taking your personal time and doing something fruitful with it is like, you gotta recharge those batteries, you know, you gotta recharge those batteries. It's something you gotta do, you know. My personal thing, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I like going camping. Those breaks come and I disappear in the woods for 2 weeks. So it's just about finding something that's gonna fulfill you, you know, and also knowing those kids, looking for those it's really neat because when we're talking about positive reinforcement of the classroom, some of these systems, you will see the kids that latch onto it, and you know they're growing, and you know that they feed off that, and that's what you're showing up to work to do. You know, sometimes I think we get really too fixated on that kid that's like, oh, this kid has the issues, and I'm going to change this kid. And you're not going to change anything. I'm sorry, you're just not. Like, you know, I can tell like people are going to get the burnout the most when they show up at work and they're like, yeah, we're going to save the world today. It's like, no, we're not. We're not going to save the world today, okay? But we're going to do the best we can for right now, okay? We're going to celebrate the little successes, and we're going to move on, you know.
So
I saw her, and then I'll get to you.
Is that okay? At our
Yeah.
school, we have student success team meetings, and we put a plan, and we go on that plan. But what happens, like I'm going along, and I'm giving those positive reinforcements, I'm doing okay, and then I mess up. I really blow it, I kind of lose my cool. So what's the conversation, you know, like the next day when you come back and try to, I don't want to like repair some of that, but I don't also want to show, you know, that I'm too wimpy, that I'm still that strong teacher. So what are some of those conversations? How do you?
I'll be honest, man, I've gained a lot of, you'll be surprised at how much respect and control or power, whatever you want to call it, you will gain from admitting defeat sometimes. You know, you come in and be like, I did it with a student today. Like I said, hey, this is going to happen, and this is what you did, and this is the consequence. Well, it's like, okay, I just said that because I was angry and I shouldn't have said it. We all make mistakes. So I came back around like, hey, dude, I messed up. Like, I'm sorry, I should have said this differently. This is what I really meant. How do you feel about that? Oh, okay, well, I can understand that, Mr. C. Okay, yeah, I am. Apologize. Let's work the problem and move forward, you know, because they need to know that you're human too. Because sometimes when you're the one implementing these plans, there's this huge spread. They see you as perfect, and you have all the answers, and sometimes they're going to resent that, and they're the bottom of the barrel. And you got to teach them. It's like, no, let's meet in the middle. Like, I'm a human too. I make mistakes. It happens. That's natural.
Sometimes
you know.
I talk too much, and then they kind of go, okay.
Yeah, and that's fun. They do it to me. They do it to me too. I think it's no mystery. I'm a talker. No, it's true. They do it too. And being okay with that, you know, I'm honest with them. I joke with them about a whole bunch of things. You know, it's like, You're like, hey, Mr. C, you want a cookie? Dude, does it ever look like I turned out a cookie before? Dude, come on, yeah, hook me up, bro. You know, and so it's like, you know, you're just being honest with them about those type of things. You'd be surprised, you know. I've done it 1,000 times. You know, you're gonna make mistakes. That's just and then showing them that when they make, because one of the big slogans I use with the kids, you're gonna make mistakes. That's not the issue. It's how you handle it. That makes the difference. And so that's what I coach with them. Yeah.
When you were talking about students that respond really well
Mm-hmm.
to behavioral programs, we have students that come to our school that have been in EBC. We're not as tightly wound at all as y'all are. That's why we're here to think about a couple students. So the fading piece and the transitioning to different classrooms, whatever age you are, it's, I think at the high school level, it gets really tricky because we can't be as overt with the token economies because it's not cool, or it isn't as catchy. And, you know, so it's like the amount of creativity that teachers have to do in the classroom to do these behavioral mechanisms gets crap. So it just feels challenging at the high school level to kind of have masked behavioral interventions, which are important for a few of the kids and not, you know, so that just ends up really being, I don't know what I meant more comments, but so I don't know if you have, like, for what successful environments for the kids that have transitioned from here, like, what do you see any commonalities that work? Do they do really well and then kind of fall on their faces and kind of pick back up and they go to other places? Like, so what kind of?
Some of them do. I mean, I've seen the gambit. I've seen the students that leave here and it's like we're starting all over again.
Yeah.
I've also seen the students that leave here and do really well and they come back and say, God, Mr. C, like, you were really hard on us. You trained us for even more than we needed. And I go, well, I'd rather have you have the tools and not need them than don't have the tools and then you need them, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, you just gotta, like, remind them, you know, my advice to you, I guess, what I'm trying to get at, what you were trying to say is, like, remind them this is where you came from, this is where you need to go.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of like, that's a very powerful message for them. It's like,
Graduated from that.
Yeah.
Like they, you know, you were
You know, and as I tell you know this, man. You know, sometimes I tell, like, when I say you know this and look, keep focused on where you're going, and they go, well, I don't know how to do that. So that's why they make windshields really big in cars and rearview mirrors really small, because it's more important to pay attention to where you're going than where you've been. You know? So pay attention to where you want to go. What are your goals? It's like resetting some of those strategies. They know what it's in there, but then it just kind of like fades away. So you just got to kind of get them to think about resetting those strategies. What are you going to do to make the situation better? You can do it. We know you can. EBC believes in you. We believe in you because we said you can come here. Yeah. Let's keep moving forward, you know. All right. You're very welcome, guys. Really, thank you very much.